Welcome. You've got mail.
It's the Millennial Midlife Crisis Podcast with Justin and Sean. Take it away, guys.
Alrighty, guys. How's everybody doing? It's Monday, February 5th, 2024. We are back with another episode of the Millennial Midlife Crisis Podcast. Sean, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be back. I want to apologize to everybody for I figured since there's two of us, it's half my fault that the fans have had to wait to get the greatness that is us.
I think that's a perfect segue into what a lot of this episode is going to be about, and that's going to be the responsibilities and things of the 90s, because this episode is being brought to you by Responsibility. I've learned that when you make plans and you have two children like under 2, they just laugh at you and they say, no, we're not doing that. So thank you for bearing with me, Sean, and for our listeners. I appreciate it. So yeah, we are the Millennial Midlife Crisis Podcast. We try to do this every other week. It's been about a month. I think we've done 2 episodes, and this will be our second episode in the last 2 months. So we'll hopefully get back into the swing of things. I know I miss doing this. You can find us in a variety of ways. Go to linktree.com/MMC podcast for all of our different podcast apps that you can check out. Facebook.com/MMC podcast 1. Email the show, mmcpodcast1@gmail.com, or call the show, leave us a voicemail, or shoot us a text message at 1-815-905-CLUB. So, all right, this episode is going to be jam-packed to fill everything in within our hour. So we got Sean went up to Lake County in Northern Illinois to check out the Vintage Fest, which, if you're wondering, why are we talking about a Vintage Fest? Well, apparently the 90s are now considered vintage, which is scary. Little bit of a gut check, I'm not going to lie. On top of that, we're going to talk a little bit about maybe responsibilities we had as children as opposed to now, chores, all that good stuff. We're going to talk about things that are, different nowadays as opposed to back then. And I went and found a list from, the website is called Hello Giggles. I don't know if that's the most reputable site, but it's 90s kids problems, 25 things our kids and kids today will never understand. So I think that'll be good to tie in with all that. There's a few, I was just kind of skimming through it earlier today, and felt like just a get off my lawn moment again.
Yeah.
Which is generally what this podcast is turning into, I think. So
that's okay.
Yeah. So Sean, tell us what made you go to the Vintage Fest? How was it? What was there? What caught your eye? What was surprising? Give us the whole smorgasbord of details.
So it was just something, I think it popped up on Facebook or Instagram as we find things do. My wife Kelly and I are kind of, for those of you who don't know us, we're kind of like pseudo into the 40s, 50s greaser, pinup girl, that kind of stuff. We go to a lot of car shows. We see a lot of that stuff. We like a lot of the old advertisements and stuff too. Mm-hmm. If anyone's ever been to the Volo Auto Museum, the wall of advertisements is like one of our all-time favorite things. Anyway, with that being said, so we figured Vintage Fest is right up our alley. Like, who knows what because we go to thrift stores, we go to antique stores, things like that. So we figured that we would find things in the realm. And there was a couple of videos on Instagram and stuff about this. And it looked like it was mostly clothes, but you never know what you're going to find. And so we took the drive, we took the leap. And what was surprising was, yes, not really anything from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, a little bit of the 80s. It was all the mostly 90s. And there was so much Jordan Bulls repeat stuff. Mm-hmm. Not even like getting into
the repeat.
Right. Like, this was stuff from like 92, 93, like stuff like that, which it was just like, wow. And then me being the NASCAR guy, there was a lot of cool old NASCAR t-shirts, jackets, a lot of jackets, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was a blast from the past. And there was a lot of, we were poking each other the whole, hey, did you have that? I had that, oh, my mom had that. Oh, my, that's my grandma had that jacket. I mean, all kinds of just.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say there had to be a couple starter jackets there.
There was.
Yes. Okay.
There we did find a Bulls one. We found a few Charlotte Hornets
Oh,
ones.
okay. One
Um,
of those might have been mine at some point.
yeah, right. A lot of they had a few vintage jerseys of everything. I mean, hockey, football,
Mhm.
baseball. There was this really cool. If we had a basement, we said that we would have bought it. It was like a light, like a springtime type jacket, but it was from '05 for the White Sox, and
Oh.
it was a jacket, but it almost looked like a plaque, like something you would want to put on the wall. It was
Mhm.
real. Like I totally said it. If I had a place to put it, I would have bought it and framed it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it I don't know, there's something unsettling, like, that's where we're at now. Like, I don't know, I remember as a kid, like, in the '90s and even the early 2000s when the radio stations would do, like, '80s at 8, and, like, that was only, like, 10, maybe, not even 10 years removed. It didn't seem like such a big deal, and now, like you said, you're talking about the first three-peat for the Bulls, like, that's we're past the 30-year mark for all 3 of
Right.
those now,
And there
which
was a
is
lot of old advertisements for like cigarettes and stuff. Like I saw a lot of like Joe Camel stuff, and it
Yeah.
was like, when was the last time?
I still remember I don't know why I remember this, but I remember when they still had cigarette billboards, and I remember
Right.
there being a billboard at, like, 87th and, God, I haven't lived in Oak Lawn now in such a long time, 87th and, Cicero, and I remember there being, like, Joe Camel billboards going into the city on Cicero, and, it's funny, you don't even think of that now, like, because I feel like we were on the tail end too of, like, cigarette ads in magazines, and then that got all taken care of too, so
Well, I can tell you that. So for those of you who remember, NASCAR used to be sponsored by Winston,
yeah, the Winston Cup,
the
yeah.
Winston Cup. So I think my first NASCAR race, it was still Winston Cup,
Mhm.
and they were literally giving out packs of cigarettes. I mean, like bottles of water.
Smoke
I'll
up,
never forget it.
Johnny.
We were walking, yeah, right. We were walking up to the track because if you've been to Chicagoland Speedway,
Mhm.
it's just miles of bare
Yeah.
open field
I'm
for
nothing.
parking,
Yeah.
and then you walk to it, and then
Right.
they have this little park, and actually I don't even know if they had the park then because the park has a little plaque and things for everyone who's won there, and this was like really early on, so I don't even know if there was any like many winners yet. But
Okay.
anyway, and I remember big red tent guys going, U18, here you go, U18, here you go, U18, here you go, and it was, I mean, you would never see that now.
Man, what a different time.
And it wasn't, I mean, it was long, but it wasn't that long. Like that goes back to like
Yeah.
2003, 4
I was gonna say
maybe?
because then it became the Nextel Cup, right?
Right.
Which Nextel's not even a thing anymore, is
Nope.
it? That's
That's not
long
a
gone
thing
too.
anymore either. And then it was Sprint,
Mhm.
and yeah. So then it was Monster.
What is it now?
It's I can't believe I don't know off the top of my
Eh,
head.
that's alright.
It's because it's changed so many
I
times.
was gonna say there's no mainstay. Let's see, who's the title sponsor for NASCAR? Let's find this out. Oh, it says the 4 premier partners are Busch Beer, Coca-Cola, Geico, and Xfinity. Is it the Xfinity Cup? Does
Well,
that sound
no,
right?
Xfinity is the triple, like
Oh,
the minor
like the
league.
minor leagues?
That's the
Okay.
Xfinity Cup. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it was a good time. If you could take away, like, the best thing you saw there,
Ooh.
what if you had to narrow it down or even, like, a top 2, like, what were the
Well,
2 best things that you're like,
I,
"Holy smokes," like, that
I
is
mean,
besides the actual Winston Cup stuff?
well,
Uh
they had a lot of video games.
oh, really? Okay, nice.
A lot of I saw a Sega Genesis, and
Ooh, that
I swear I couldn't tell you the last time I saw one, like
no.
a picture of one, let alone in person.
I think I still have mine in my crawl space, but, like, one of the prongs for the controllers is bent, so it'll
Mm.
never work again. I should probably just throw it away, but
Hey, you never know. There might be somebody out there that might give you a couple bucks for it,
yeah, that's true.
just for the sake of
Of
either.
having it on a shelf or something?
Who knows? I'm sure there's some YouTube video on how to
Yeah.
fix it.
Well, I got one of those RetroPie emulator boxes that
Mhm.
are like, I don't really need it for anything else but
Well,
that.
but if the right person bought it though,
Yeah, that's true.
I
That
mean,
is
you never
true.
know.
Well,
Yeah, that would probably be about it. I mean, like I said, a lot of the start. Oh, I mean, some of the old jerseys were kind of cool
mhm,
too, just to see. Like, oh yeah, he was a bear. Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah, oh,
another
yeah.
wasted season of some guy's career that had potential and then didn't pan out. Or the Bears didn't
Oh
pan
well.
out. I should say the Bears didn't pan out, but well, that's really cool. I definitely next year, if that comes around or if there's one that's closer, I may have to check that out.
They seem to pop around. I know there's one in the city. It's just called like something a little different. And then,
Okay.
like I said, last year there was one in Orland or Tinley,
I
and
was
we
gonna
we
say
just
that
didn't get to it.
Tinley Park's got that big convention center on Harlem, right? Right off of 80, I think.
I
Is
think
that a
so, yeah.
convention center? So maybe that's something I wouldn't we could do a live remote from
I wanted, like I was telling you before, and now I'll
yeah.
tell the tens of listeners, as we say. I wanted to take pictures of some of the stuff, but I was a little like, I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
what's
weird.
the protocol there,
Yeah.
you know? We gotta wait until we start making it big and then we can just,
Well, then
people
we'll
will
have our own booth.
I
I
would say they'll
mean,
flock to us to take their
that's
pictures,
right.
you know?
There is that vintage car show in California that I always thought would be really cool to go to
That'd be
too, and
cool
it's
too.
only 80s and 90s
See,
cars,
that would
which
be
I think
pretty
is
cool.
hilarious.
That'd be pretty cool.
Just
See, like,
because, like, anywhere else, it's like you could walk through a junkyard and find 10 of them, and now there's some guy like waxing it, and he could tell you the exact paint code of
see,
the
like
wheels.
one of the Jurassic Park,
Explorers.
explorers, with the yellow and was it like orange and green color scheme, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
that would be difficult to do.
that is really cool. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah.
Let's what you want to jump into responsibilities of and chores and things like that? That was something I know we talked about.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
let's hit it. Let's do it.
So it's funny. I was talking to Erica about this, and I'm like, "Yeah, Sean and I are thinking about maybe talking about like the responsibilities of what we had to deal with as a kid in the '90s compared to now." And she looked at me and she's like, "Justin, I know your parents didn't make you do chores. What are you going to talk about on the podcast?" Just very even kill. And I'm like, "Well, you're right." Now, I will say, my parents tried multiple times. We might have picked jobs, my sister and I, and there was an allowance to be had,
Mm.
but somehow, my sister and I were just like, "Yeah, no, we're not going to do it." And God love my parents. I don't know if they just didn't push the envelope on it or what, but we somehow got out of it to the point where, and I don't know why this isn't a brag because this is not something to brag about, but like I can count on one hand how many times I cut the grass when I lived at home.
Oh,
And Sean, I don't know if you remember my parents' first house, which was only a few blocks away from where the other house I grew up in. Oak Lawn and it being that close to Chicago, the lot sizes are not astronomical, right? Like they're small. I shouldn't say they're not big. They're just narrow in certain circumstances, right? So like
yeah,
my parents, the second house I grew up in was I think it's called a Chicago bungalow, where the top level is all the bedrooms and the kitchen, and then in the back of the house you go down the basement, and then the basement is the full length of the house, but just underneath.
right.
So that's what we grew up in, and because of that, the lot was very narrow. The front yard, it would have taken me 10 minutes to cut the grass because the backyard, we had a pool for most of my life growing up. And I don't know how I couldn't be bothered. I never got around to it. I never had to clean the pool, never had to pick up after the dog, which that is like the bane of my existence now. Um, but yeah, I kind of feel like a jerk. Like I got out of doing all that stuff. What about you? Like, did your parents make you do anything in terms of
No,
like allowance and all that?
yeah, but to your other half, I loved cutting the grass.
See, I like it now.
See, I liked it then because it was the closest thing to, like, engines and gasoline that I could
That
get
makes
to. I'm
sense.
serious, I
That
am
makes
dead
sense.
se I would just run, not on purpose or anything, but I mean, I would run it just a few minutes longer, whatever, just
Mhm.
to hear it run, just to smell it, just to feel it, the vibration of it and all that. I loved it because it was like I didn't have a go-kart, I didn't have
Right.
any, so this was not even the first lawnmower we had, not even self-propelled, like it was
Really?
full blown,
Go.
full
Yeah.
you know,
Getting a good workout too.
put your legs into it, you know, with the bagger and all that. Yeah. And you know what? Fun fact, since it's the 90s podcast, it was a Montgomery Ward's lawnmower.
Oh God, that's a callback.
Because there's a few things that I took after like my parents, and one of them is like, especially tools and equipment, things like that. If you take care of it, it'll take care
it'll
of
last.
you. My parents had that lawnmower before me, and it never technically died. I think it was just like, you know what,
It's time.
it's like not efficient anymore, and
Yeah.
you know, it started just running like crap and whatever.
Right.
But that's kind of like that's another thing I guess you could say was instilled in me. But my point was like, we used a Montgomery Ward's lawnmower past Montgomery Ward's existence, like
it outlived its
way
existence.
past it.
Yeah.
It seriously, yeah, because Montgomery Ward's went down in the 90s, I think, like late 90s.
That sounds right.
My parents bought their second house in 99, and
Okay.
God, we had to use it up until like I was in high school, so that was like mid 2000s.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I remember, our main thing was like my mom would always want us to keep our rooms clean,
Yeah.
which never happened.
Yeah,
Like,
that didn't happen.
I
over
was
here either.
really good.
That still doesn't happen.
No, oh God, you should see our house. I was really good at getting my clothes all folded. They just never made it back into the dresser or the closet. They would always just lay on the floor, and it would drive my mom and my dad insane. They're like, "Come on, just put your clothes away." And then my sister's
2 feet,
room,
Justin. It's 2 feet.
yeah, exactly. And especially once we built another room when I was in college, my dad built a bedroom downstairs for me, and then it was nice because I was kind of tucked out of the way. No one really came down there unless we were going to sit and watch TV or whatever. And my sister's room was right off the kitchen. So like her room had to be nice when company came over.
Yeah.
My room was like, shut the door. No one's going down there. No one's going down there unless they're going to watch TV or sit at the bar down there, whatever.
Yeah, right.
But, so I don't know. I'm trying to think of like other responsibilities that were a thing in the 90s that aren't really necessarily a thing now.
I mean, the other big one that I had was just my parents were big like plant and garden people, so the watering was my responsibility.
Oh yeah.
We had an old dehumidifier that had like a tray that you had to empty.
Geez. Okay.
Yeah, so that was another thing that I had to do.
Okay, I'm curious. Did you guys were you guys a family that would like turn the sprinkler on to keep the grass green at your house?
Once in a while, my dad wanted it like to look decent, but it didn't.
If you don't want to be the worst house on the block,
right?
Yeah.
If we had like a scorcher summer, it was whatever kind of thing.
At that point, it doesn't matter.
But we also weren't like it did not look like Yankee Stadium or anything like that. I mean, it was like my dad cut it, and then he got fancy when he got the edger.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
that's a big time right there. See, it's funny though. Like I remember, like occasionally, we had this. My dad would put the sprinkler out to keep the grass nice, and I'm thinking of that Simpsons episode with Milhouse where he's like, "Do you like the sprinklers that go like this?" Or the ones but as an adult, and I think Bart's like, "Pull it together, Milhouse," or something like that. Have some decency.
It was like the first day of summer break or something.
Yes, it's like my favorite episode of all time. But like as an adult, I'm trying to think. Eric and I bought our first house. I think I was 24 when I moved out because I commuted to college. I didn't move out, and she had her condo. But like since then, so it's 2011 to 2015 years. I've lived not at home. I don't think I've ever owned a sprinkler in my entire life. I've never once done a sprinkler. I know we've watered plants and flowers that we've planted with the hose, but an actual sprinkler? No, I don't think so.
Well, give it a couple years and then let your kids jump in it. Like we did that.
Oh, they are going to have so many chores, Sean.
I might just let them run through the sprinkler, but go ahead. You slave drive them too.
I told Erica, I'm like, they're cutting the grass and they're doing this, and she's like, they're too sweet. They don't need to have calluses on their hands. I'm like, they need some hard work and life lessons is what they need. Look how I turned out.
as I'm told, what's the point of having kids if you can't make them work?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I went. Yeah,
Now I'm picturing them like attached to like an old timey plow, like instead of a horse, like both kids just
dragging, sowing the land or what, tilling the
right,
land.
right. Either
If we
that or
had
they're
a if we had a
turning,
if we had a
they're
coal mine, I'd make them go down there with a canary.
or you could get them to turn to Lazy Susan like in The Simpsons.
That's a
I
good
always
idea too.
wondered what made that thing spin.
All right, so I think this is a perfect segue. Speaking of making my kids do stuff that I don't want to do. Um, all right, I pulled up this list: 90 kids problems that kids today will never understand. So,
I'm legit excited for
all
this.
right,
This sounds awesome.
so the first one is perfect with the intro to this podcast, and that is, it says dial-up internet. It says it's weird to think that once we had to actually wait centuries for internet connection. Remember that gorgeous noise of the modem connecting, and then your parents picking up the phone if you only had one phone line, which we only had one phone line,
We
and
did
then
too.
disconnecting you. It's funny though. Like now, if the internet or a page takes more than 5 seconds to load, I'm like,
You lose
Jesus,
your
what the hell is
shit.
this sucks. I'm paying for fiber. What is the problem here? But as a kid, I don't remember how long it took. Do you remember it taking a long time? I know it did, but I don't
I
remember it.
remember being again, it always goes back to the same thing. Being a car guy, I remember like trying to look at like pages that had like
Mhm.
little windows to click, and they were all like different like scenes from car shows or whatever, and you'd click it, and it would be like the window would open, but it would be gray, and then it
Mhm.
would like,
Yeah.
and
Like,
it's
come
like,
on.
oh, it was a Corvette. All right, oh damn it, I already saw this one. Click, open the other one.
So yeah, like it's funny. I know it was slow. And I remember like when we got cable internet for the first time in like the early 2000s, that was a big deal. But again, I don't remember how slow or how fast it was. Like it just everything. I just assume everything's as fast as it was today, which I know it's not. I know
Oh
it
God,
wasn't.
no,
There's no
no, and
way. There's
no.
no way.
Well, again, I know we keep referencing it, but think of that episode of The Simpsons with Comic Book Guy where he's waiting for the naked
Oh yeah,
girl to load,
that's
and
right.
it's
Yeah,
just it's like bar by bar by
yeah,
bar by bar by bar.
that's right. That's right.
That's
Um,
kind of how it was. But I mean, I don't remember it being like that
no, that I don't remember
janky,
that
but
being
it was
slow.
like sort of like it would be like blurry and pixelated, and then it
Mhm.
would kind of come through if I remember
I
right.
just remember like my sole purpose of going on the internet when we first got America Online was to get into the kids only channel and go in the Nickelodeon chat rooms. And
Yep.
it was just like a machine gun burst of people like
Yes.
talking. And they were always filled because there was like 3 chat rooms for the entire internet in the Nickelodeon section. And then I remember there was like trivia you could play.
Hmm.
And then besides that, like I just would go online to look up cheat codes for my PlayStation games. Like that's
I did
all I
that.
did.
I did
That's
that.
all I did. So
I was a big Yahoo gamer.
mhm.
Love Yahoo Pool. I used to play it for
Oh, yeah, yeah.
hours and
Yeah.
and it was like the neatest thing because you would always like where are you from? And it would be like I'm from Finland or something, and you'd be like, whoa, I'm like,
This
which
is
maybe
so cool.
it might have been complete like BS, and it could have
Yeah.
been some dude down the street, but it was just like I'm talking to somebody on the other side of the world, or even on
World.
the other side of the country.
Yeah, it was
Like you said,
insane.
like some of those chat rooms, because people would always be like, "Oh, where are you from?" or whatever, and it'd be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I'm from California," and you're like, "Whoa,
Oh my god. What time is it there?
yeah, right, right." Do you guys
Uh,
watch The Simpsons too?
yes, but it's on much later than for us. Okay, so
We know what
here
happens here before you guys do.
yeah, we can predict the future over you guys. All right, here's another one. I vividly remember us getting one of these. Um, and oh, my wife's in the chat. She says our daughter says hi. They must be watching up in her bedroom. Hi, Maddie.
Woo!
Hi, darling. All right, so here's a good one. Do you remember getting caller ID?
Oh yeah,
And that was when it was still the box that was
yep,
attached to the phone
yeah.
line,
You
or
only had one.
yeah.
Like you had to strategically place it in your house.
Mm-hmm. And I
Yeah.
just remember the phone would ring and me and my sister would run to the caller ID in case it was one of our friends. And
Oh, okay.
the idea of answering the phone and not knowing who it is, Who wants to do that?
Nobody does that now because if you
No.
get a number and you don't know who it is, nobody answers it.
I screen all my calls.
Why not?
And even if it's somebody I know, it's like, if it's important, you'll text me. Unless it's my parents, and if they're calling me, it's usually because someone's in the hospital. If it's not our weekly like phone day when I give them a call to see how they're doing,
Yeah, right.
or like immediate family, I'm like, I'm not picking up the phone. Just shoot me a text message. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or having to go into your voicemail and check. Speaking of voicemail, did you guys have an answering machine?
Of course we did.
Did you have your own like custom answering machine message, or was it very basic?
No, I think we were basic. I think I wanted to do something funny or smart assy or something, and my parents were like, absolutely not.
So I
God,
remember
I wish it was like a throwback machine where I could go back and listen
I
to
I
it or
would
something.
love to go. So I remember two, and one I remember this was right around the time Chumbawamba came out with their
Oh no.
song Tub Thumping, and I convinced my parents, let's put that in the background of our answering machine message. And we did it probably lasted 2 days, and then my great-grandmother, who at the time would have been, like, late '80s, early '90s, called, and she left a message, "What's all that racket in the background?" And then my mom and dad were like, "Yeah, that's gotta go. That
There
that can't
was
stay."
on the same vein. I remember a message because my grandfather was actually he was for being an older man, he was very techie
Mhm.
sort of. Um, oh my god, I can only imagine like how much fun he would have had with that stuff. But I distinctly remember him calling our answering machine one time, and he went, "Michelle, it's your father. I hate these things. Call me." Or like something to that effect. I still remember that to this day. I wish we still had that.
That's that's awesome. It's funny, I remember too, my cousin Josh just chatted in the chat, "Now I know never to call you." Yeah, Josh, if I see
There
you
you
call
go.
me, I know to pick it up. Don't worry. Family gets a pass. Um,
Yeah, I could see that.
but, uh but yeah, like, so the other one I remember doing a lot, and I think I convinced my parents this too, where it was like you were, like, pretending to have a conversation with someone, so they started talking, and then you'd be like, "Ah, I'm just kidding, there's no one actually here." Click.
Yes.
I remember doing
Or
that a couple times
or
too,
it
and
would ring and then it would you'd be like, "Hello?
yeah, yeah.
We're not here to right now," or whatever. I remember doing that when we started getting cell phones, like where
Yes,
we could do it ourselves.
that might be what I'm I can't think of the word. It's too late. Eric also writes in and says, they're home. Yes, that is a voicemail my grandfather left us, similar
That's
to what yours
awesome.
was. He left a voicemail or a voice message or an answering message. And then you hear my grandma in the background, they're home. We drove by or something along those lines.
Your light's on.
Your light's on, because they only lived a
You
few
don't
blocks from
go
us.
anywhere. Pick up
Yeah,
the phone.
especially now. I don't want to leave my house. You kidding? Um,
Do you real quick? I just
yeah.
thought of something kind of funny. Do you want to just throw out like what do you think would be stereotypical 90s like if like go in the Wayback Machine, what would be a funny answering machine
Right now,
tagline? Yeah. You got anything off
uh,
the top of your head? Cuz I have one that I just thought of. Like I don't even know why. But it would
I
just be like, "Sorry, we're watching Friends right now."
oh god, that would
Or
be
like something
spot
like that.
on.
Like I could totally see or like, "Sorry, we're watching OJ get
I think
chased
I
or the
think
OJ
JR just got
trial."
shot. I think it's pretty serious. Yeah, I'd probably say something with the OJ trial, right? What else? What? Yeah, I don't know. I
It
would say like TV was such a big deal back then because it
Yeah,
was
because you
everybody was watching the same thing,
right.
on basic cable. So
Well, I mean, times you have more options, but I feel
mhm.
like people still kind of flock to the
Yeah,
same, everybody's going crazy for the bear. Everyone went crazy for
or
Yellowstone.
Severance or whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I mean, especially during the pandemic, everybody I
Oh,
don't
The
think I've
Last
met
Dance. Yeah.
I was thinking more Tiger King.
Oh, see, I still have not seen Tiger King to this day.
What?
No. I got the gist of it through like
No, no, you didn't.
cultural
Let me just
osmosis.
stop you right
All
there.
right,
No,
fair
you
enough.
didn't.
So, okay, this is another good one. I'm glad you brought up streaming. And obviously, like, we have YouTube TV, we still have commercials, but like if I record something, I skip through all the commercials. If I'm watching something on just regular YouTube, as soon as the little timer's
Yep.
up, I skip the ad.
Done. Yep.
Like, that was not a thing
No.
30 years ago. Besides the Super Bowl, like, it's funny, like, we'll put, Miss Rachel on or Blippy on YouTube for Maddie to watch, and the ads come up, and like she's just starting to get the hang of, oh, it's only going to be about 5 seconds because then
Yeah.
dad's going to click skip. But like if we're watching something on live TV, like Bluey by chance, and it's not recorded, she's not happy having to sit through a commercial. And I'm like, kiddo,
I'm with
this was
you.
life for the
Yeah.
longest time. I don't know what to
Oh
tell
yeah.
you, but yeah, I don't know.
I can't even like fathom that.
No.
And back then you had to watch the damn commercials because even now, if there's something, whatever, everyone's attention span goes like to their phone or something,
Which, and I'm guilty. I've been trying to break that habit for a long time, but it's not going well.
It is
I've
what it
I've
is.
resorted to deleting like some apps off my phone so then I'll be more hesitant to grab it because there's nothing on there. But
I
anyway,
mean, I don't have, and I'm not saying that anyone that has it is wrong or whatever, but I don't have TikTok and I don't
no, neither do I.
have Snapchat either.
No, I never had those two either.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that those are big time killers for a
I
lot of
watch
people.
I watch my TikToks on Instagram like 2 weeks later as reels.
Yeah, right,
when
yeah,
they're no longer popular anymore.
yeah.
Okay. Here's one. This is a little bit later. This would have been early 2000s.
I live
Not
there too.
necessarily 90s. But do you remember putting up your personalized AIM away message?
I knew this is where you were going.
So this article says nothing showcased your true emotions quite like a passive aggressive AIM away message or lyrics from a brand new song.
Yeah, I didn't do the passive aggressive
No.
thing very much. Excuse me. A lot of my stuff was smart assy. I did have a countdown till my 21st birthday.
Oh, that's kind of clever.
And I changed it every day. It was like 365 days until I'm drunk off my ass. 364. I did. I think I lasted like almost 100 days in before I either like forgot a day and then it was kind of like janked up by then, or I just started repeating and then it was like, but yeah, I did that, and which is kind of sad that I still had AIM back then too,
That
because
close,
I think a
yeah.
lot of people had moved on by then.
I know AIM was officially discontinued like within the last 2 or 3 years. They finally
That was it. I thought
Yeah.
it was before that.
Let me see. Hold on, I'll look it up. But yeah, so okay. The reason I brought December 15th, 2017. So 7 years ago.
Yeah, that kind of tracks more with what I
Okay.
was thinking.
So I never my away messages were either lyrics to bands and songs I liked,
I think I did that a couple
or
times.
like comedian routines that I thought were funny.
Oh, that's good.
That was kind of what I would do. But I stopped that full stop, the music stuff, because of one time. I don't know if your mom was this way, and I love my mom, but she was very nosy when it came to AIM away messages. So in our basement, we had 2 computers. We had like the newer computer, and then we had the old one that was much slower. Well, my sister would use the old slow one, and I would use the newer one. And if we were going to go out, I mean, we're in high school, so like you get in the car, you got to let everybody know where you're going,
Yep.
because your phone might not be charged, or you didn't have a cell phone,
or it didn't get reception in somebody's basement. I can't tell you how many times that happened.
I just remember like sitting at people's houses and all the phones would be alongside the windowsills in the basement, so like you could get a sliver of reception, and it never worked.
That's a lot smarter than what we did, because we would be like, and then you'd go upstairs or outside and it'd be 3 missed calls, 4 voice messages.
Yeah. And
Where
it was
the
always
hell
like,
are you?
where are you? Get home now.
Or it would be your friend that's like, I'm here. Can you let me in?
Let me in. So the reason I stopped with song lyrics, are you familiar with the Violent Femmes song?
Vaguely.
Blister in the Sun?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I remember I heard that song for the first time in high school. It was probably 10, 15 years old at that point. I think it was like early 90s at that, whatever. I loved that song. I thought it was catchy. I think I learned how to play it on the drums at one point, whatever. So I put the entire lyric of that song. Well, there's one part in the song where I think the singer goes something about something, I'm as high as a kite, right?
Right, yeah.
I don't, okay. No big deal. My mom would go through and like I would turn the monitor off so she wouldn't see who left me messages. She would turn it on and see who left us messages and see what our away message was. Well, sure enough, she saw that and she thought that was my cry for like being addicted to marijuana and I was doing
Cool.
drugs. Yeah.
That probably couldn't have gone smoother.
Oh yeah, I was like, no, I'm never putting an away message up anymore. I'm done with this. My sister, she would check my sister got it way worse than I did. But yeah, after that, it was, hey, if you need me, call me. And if I don't answer, it's because I don't have service. Bye. Like that was my
Yep.
away message after that. So
And it's funny to think too, back then people used to leave their phone number.
yeah. Yeah, I don't want anybody knowing my number now. I want to be
Did you-
unlisted as much as possible.
Speaking of AIM and stuff, do you remember all like the little codes? Like if you were chatting with somebody and your parents came in the room, you're supposed to put like
Yeah.
P911 and stuff like that.
Parents over shoulder. Okay, here's another one. Having to wait for the TV guide or preview channel scroll
Yes.
all the way around.
Yes. Oh my God. That was the most frustrating thing in the world. If you had like just missed whatever channel you were
It's
trying
like, I
to.
just want to know what's on Nickelodeon in 2 hours. Why can't it go faster? Come on.
Do you
You know?
remember when it started showing movies?
Yes. That really threw me off.
I remember my mom one time was like, "Why are you watching the preview channel?" I'm like, "Because they're playing Die Hard. That's why," or like whatever it was.
Yeah, you're not
And then it was
wrong.
half the screen, and yeah,
So
preview channel was cool.
I'm trying to think. I'm looking at some more lists here.
Speaking of that, like as a jumping off point, I saw a meme the other day, or a reel, and it was like nothing slaps as hard as the Weather Channel of the '90s with the jazz music.
So Sean, I'll do you one better. If you ever go on Twitch, twitch.tv, they recreated the old Weather Channel and it runs the
my.
forecast. They got all the old graphics.
Oh my
They
God.
got
Well, all you need is like a Windows 98 computer, I'm sure.
and then they have like the smooth jazz playing that's like
Oh my
kind of
God.
bopping a little bit.
I might have to.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find that. I'll put it in I'll message it to you. But oh my God. Yeah, the Weather
And then
Channel, the Weather Channel was something absolutely amazing. Of course, the
Oh, I
channels.
mean, I remember if we were going on vacation or whatever, it was on for like 2 weeks before wherever we were, it was on like 2 weeks before we departed, just to like kind of get a feel of, oh, it's gonna rain on Wednesday when we get there or whatever. Well, it rains. I mean, I can't control it.
Of course, the Weather Channel stream is not up right now, but
That's all right.
I
But do
will.
you remember how it would like abruptly stop and it would be like weather in your area and things
Yes.
like that? Yeah.
Or like when there was a really bad storm, the screen would
Yes.
turn like all red. It wasn't just a little crawl at the bottom; like it was full blown. Like
And then it would have that obnoxious like beeping and
oh,
yeah, you always knew.
I hated that sound.
You always knew when somebody in your house was watching the Weather Channel because through the whole damn house you could hear it.
What about I'm looking. Here's a list on BuzzFeed. The same thing. Checking the newspaper for movie times.
Yeah,
That wasn't a thing I really did. Maybe my parents did for us.
I was a caller.
Oh, did you call movie phone?
Yeah, not
Really?
movie phone. I would call sometimes like I swear there was like a number. Maybe it was movie phone. Yeah, because I just remember like.
I keep thinking of the Seinfeld episode.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see?
Okay, here's another one. Sean, do you remember the last time you had to get film developed that wasn't from your phone or a digital camera, actual film?
It was either. Actually, I do. And I can actually probably tell you the year if you give me 1 second to Google what year. What the hell? The Reno 911 first movie came out.
Oh God!
Because there's a backstory. 2007.
Okay, that
Okay.
that seems about right.
So here's why. Here's why I know that. because I went to World of Wheels, and this was back when it was at McCormick, which again was a long time ago because it's been at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center ever since.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were promoting the movie, and I met Dangle and Junior. They were
Really?
there with the car from the movie, like the Mustang police car, and they were, doing the PR for the movie and all that. And I think that was one of the very last times I used a film camera.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's actually pretty cool. Were they pretty nice guys to meet, or were they more
were
just
so I didn't even know they were there. We were literally just looking at cars walking around, and all of a sudden, I swear to you, I just see this dude in short shorts, and I'm like, what the hell? And then because it's a crowd of people, so it's like it's like a sea of people. So it's like you see him, you don't see him, you see him, you don't see him. And I was like, and I think he had the cowboy boots on too. And I was like, wait a minute, that's Dangle.
I know those.
Then 2 seconds later, I see Junior's stupid haircut, and I'm like, it's Junior. And I'm like, why are the Reno 911 guys here? And then they had I think they had like a signing or something somewhere, and they were being escorted, but we stopped them for a picture. So I don't want to fully, they were really nice, but I don't want to fully judge them because we did stop them and catch them probably a little off guard, or they were probably going to lunch, or they were leaving or whatever. But yeah, no, they were really cool.
That's awesome. While you were thinking of that, it made me realize too, I don't know about you, but I remember when I was really little, my parents had a regular Kodak camera, nothing fancy. But then right around, I don't know, probably around 2000, late 90s, we just switched to the disposable cameras, and that's all we ever bought. And I just remember oh, you're going away with your friends for the weekend to so-and-so's campground or whatever. It was like, all right, grab a disposable camera. We're just going to take as many pictures as we can. And then it was trying to be the a-hole that would, just take a bunch of yourself and waste film and stuff like that. But
speaking of cameras real quick, there was a booth at Vintage Fest. I forgot about that were selling the vintage film cameras.
Really?
Yeah, and of all shapes and sizes, the bigger ones from the 80s all the way to the ones that you could put in your pocket, the digital. I don't know if there were. Yeah, I think there was a couple digital ones. But yeah, it was, and then they even had a couple of the pictures just to showing that they still worked, and and it was crazy to see what film looked like, because I know what it looks like, but God, the resolution was so bad, compared to now.
It makes you realize the Kodak company totally, they had to do had to switch gears pretty quick once everything went digital. I think now they're a chemical company.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, which is that yellowish orange. I think the Kodak, didn't they have there was a Kodak NASCAR, wasn't there? Kodak sponsored NASCAR.
It won it won the Daytona 500 2 years in a row.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I believe it was 94 and 95, driven by Sterling Marlin.
I know there's a name I remember. I'm not even a NASCAR guy. I remember that guy. All right. Well, we got time for a few more.
Hit me.
Do you remember having to use a Rand McNally Atlas, or your parents using a Rand McNally
Vaguely. Atlas? I'll tell you one thing that my parents had that my mom had, it was really cool for the time, because we used to drive to Florida.
Same here.
I think we used to go every other year or something like that. My mom had it looked like a Game Boy. Okay. But what it was you typed in your mile marker or your exit. I don't remember exactly how it worked. And it would tell you there's a Shell, there's a Pizza Hut, and there's a, I don't know, a Shoney's or something in that
Cracker Barrel.
In that town. And I mean, for us,
that's high tech stuff right there.
Road trip people, this was how do we live without this thing? But I remember we typed it in and we pulled off, and it was an abandoned gas station. It was well, technically it was correct. There is a gas station here. However,
at one point, people did buy gas here.
Right. Donnie's Discount Gas.
I just remember similar to your family, like I remember whenever we would go to Florida, we flew once, I think, and then we
Yeah, I
would
think we
usually
did too.
drive. We usually drove, or like we would drive to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Those were like our two
Okay.
big vacations. And I just remember like the night or two before, my dad would get the big like atlas out that he kept in the car, and him and my mom would be going through and highlighting the highways they were going to take and color coding everything. And it was like it was a big deal. And like in retrospect now being like, I don't even think about like if I have to go somewhere tomorrow that I've never been, there's no like even for me who is very anxious, there's no anxiety. It's just my phone will tell me how to get there. Or I mean, I still have a GPS in my car too I could use,
Right.
but yeah, like that is just so or the Google, MapQuest, and then trying to read the directions while you're driving,
Yep.
totally not a safe thing to do.
No.
But yeah, so
MapQuest would send you on some journeys sometimes too.
oh, I know. I've been there was a time, I ended up on Lower Wacker with John and Missy, which that's a notorious story that we can talk about off air, but, yeah, I'm trying to think what there's I'm running out of
It
things
led us
here.
to a cornfield in Ohio one time.
Really?
Yeah, we were going to my mom's cousin's wedding, and my parents are just following it, 15 miles here, turn right, whatever. And I mean, God's country to
Mhm.
the I mean, you could barely find the farmhouse. And I'm not trying to be funny or
No, I know.
exaggerating. I mean,
Right,
we were
right.
literally in the middle of a field, and I don't remember if there was like a guy driving the other way. I don't remember, but my dad like flagged the guy down, and the guy's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And my dad's like, "Hey, do you know where the I don't know the Hampton Inn is, or
Sure.
like whatever it was?" And the guy goes, "I still remember it too." The guy's like, "No, nothing like that around here for miles."
I'm just
Well, and
thinking of the original Vacation movie now when they stop in East St. Louis.
yeah, right, exactly. You go see a Torino, and it got no wheels on it, and inside that Torino is my cousin.
I'm on
Yeah,
vacation.
it was kind of like that. I don't even know. You know what the even crazier part is? It's like, what do you like in today's society? You would go, well, what do I do now? But
Oh,
like, I
the
don't know.
thought
We
of having
somehow,
to go and ask someone in person? Oh,
well,
I don't
I
wanna
don't
do
even
that.
mean that. I just mean like, say you're, and I'm not trying to give you an anxiety attack or anything,
No,
but
I'm
say your
good.
GPS fails,
Yeah.
like, you know, the old school people, like our parents and stuff, know,
Mhm.
like, and I'm terrible at this, but it's like, well, all the and I'm probably gonna say it wrong, but it's how everyone always knows like the crazy things, like all the even numbers are on the west side of
Oh,
the
yeah, I
street
don't
or
know
whatever. And
that,
it's like, I
yeah.
don't fucking know.
The
And it's like, well, you're heading south if the numbers are going down or whatever. And it's like, no, I don't know that.
the
Like,
the
I
only
don't have to know that.
the only saving grace I had, and once I got out of Illinois, I'd be in trouble, but, like, growing up south of the city, I always knew my directions. I knew if I
Well,
was
right,
heading
yeah,
that was the only saving grace, so it was like, if I would have been coming back from a Hawks game, and if I got off on the wrong 55 exit, which, yikes, that could be bad news, but, like, you just knew, "Okay, I'm on this side of the city.
right.
I'm just gonna keep heading south until eventually I'm gonna recognize a town and I'll
Or a
find my way
street
or a
or
street or
something. Yeah,
something, right?"
I've done that.
But like you said, to your point, if you're on the way to vacation somewhere, like, that would be terrifying. But like you said, you just have to keep driving in one direction until something clicks, right? Like,
But it
that's
was,
all you
like,
can do.
relatively normal back then, like, I
Yeah,
think
that
people
was
would just freak out now, but I mean, like, my dad and my mom and everybody had enough sense to just be like, "Well, let's head back on the highway and see what we find, or
yeah.
go to find a gas station that has a map or a whatever." And,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we did eventually get to the wedding, but, that's just crazy to think of, like, because now you just go, "Well, my phone's dead. What do I
Yeah.
do?
It's like,
I
"Ah,
don't know."
guess I'm not going."
Right, yeah, right. I guess I'm gonna turn around and go home. I'll
Alright.
watch it on Zoom.
I got one more, and then I think I'm good on this list because some of these don't really necessarily apply to what we're discussing. But one thing that is no longer around, and this is something I miss so much, and I feel like there was Redbox kind of tried to steal that thunder a little bit, but it didn't take off as much, in my opinion. But like the idea of on a Friday night after school, going to Blockbuster or, being in Chicago, Hollywood Video, picking out a movie, looking behind the box to see if there's a movie you can rent, and then going in the game section. What Sega game or PlayStation 1 game am I going to rent? And then, like just the smell of like, and I can smell it right now.
I
Like the
know.
smell of Blockbuster. It's like a combo of like popcorn, candy,
And
plastic, and BO, maybe like those, those four things together. But like, or like when it was a new release, like I still remember going there when Titanic was on VHS, and like the entire wall of one side of the Blockbuster was just,
Yep.
they must have
If
had
it was a big release like that, and you
Must have had
still weren't
150.
guaranteed to be able to get one.
No, exactly. And then you had to make sure you had to rewind before you
Oh
returned it.
god, yeah. That
Be
was another
kind,
thing that was
rewind.
at Vintage Fest that I forgot to bring up. There was a ton of VHS tapes and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
My
Nothing to
parents.
play them on though. You would think
No.
somebody'd be selling a VCR.
Well, yeah. No, I'm trying to think like once Eric and I sold our house in Oak Lawn and moved out here to Manhattan, like every couple months when my parents would visit, they'd bring like another box of stuff that I somehow managed to sneakily leave at their house because I didn't want it. And at one point, they brought me a huge bag of all my VHS tapes as a child. And I'm like, I don't want to get rid of these because I'm sentimental, but at the same time, I don't own a VHS player and I'm never going to, because why would I? The picture quality sucks.
Why
But
would you go back?
like I had my gold box, the Star Wars movies that they re-released. I had like a couple X-Men cartoons on VHS. I had the original Mighty Ducks on VHS. And I'm like, just looking back, I'm like, man, this is just such a wild
Well,
format.
truth be told, I don't even know if you could watch some of them, even if you had a VHS.
Oh, I think
because I
the
think those
recording,
tapes like disintegrate and stuff.
Well, that's even like, I remember when CDs came out, they're like, oh, these are going to be good forever. And then like, especially with burning CDs, like I have so many CDs I burned in the early 2000s that were on cheap CDs. They all have disc rot now and they're unplayable.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I'm thinking most like CDs you'd buy at like Target or Walmart or Kmart or Venture, one of my favorites. Like those CDs were probably made on a pretty high quality thing. So like all my original CDs still work, but like the ones I bought, like a box of like 300 from Office Depot, those things they're falling apart at the seams. So
I didn't know that was a thing.
If you got burned CDs, get those things on a computer somewhere ASAP before the CD just
I do,
melts.
but it's all music that I probably have on Spotify or whatever anyway, so it really doesn't.
You're absolutely
It's
fine.
not like home movies, you know what I mean? Like
a couple of years ago, I just digitized all our stuff, and we had some that were on like the little cassettes. They weren't on like the VHS, and it's sad because it's like, well, they're wrecked. I can't get it off the tape. It's ruined. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, it's even the same thing with like if the internet ever went down, I would lose like all my pictures because who has physical photo albums and things even though those rot too.
That is literally probably the only reason I'm still on Facebook, is because that's my entire photo album of like the last 20 years of my life.
Yeah.
You know, in like you said, it's funny. I was just this is like highfalutin theory here, but like there was some philosopher or philosophy doctor, major, whatever, a couple years ago was talking about like the idea of like if you go to your grandparents' house, your parents' house, and you can like spend a day digging through old photo albums and reminiscing and being like, oh my gosh, like this is it's so much fun. I just did that a couple months ago when I went back home to my parents' house. They found a bunch of old photo albums and it was so much fun. But like my kids aren't going to look at my Facebook page from 20, you know what I mean? Like
that's probably going to be a thing. You know, somebody's going to, this is the here $1 million
idea, Sean.
Get the crystal ball out. Somebody buys like a rights to a bunch of the pictures or whatever, and then they make your kids pay to see what your dad drunkenly did in college or whatever. I don't mean you personally.
No, not me personally.
But I mean,
right. What did Erica do? That's what it'll be.
Not touching that one.
No, I know. You're a good man.
But yeah, that's, I mean, I think we all have unflattering pictures on Facebook, or even like, you know, oh, who's that girl that's with dad or what, you know, who knows?
That's not mom.
Or what, yeah. Or they could go back and read like Man, 2009 was rough for Dad. He had a
Yeah.
lot of like emo type posts.
I
or
saw a thing on
something.
Instagram the other day. It was like, there is no one I have less in common with than the person who was writing my Facebook statuses in like 2006, like and showing up on Facebook memories. And
Right.
it's true because it's like, oh my God, dude, you were
Or
worrying
find
about the
find
wrong
somebody's
thing.
live journal or whatever.
Oh, or MySpace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
MySpace, I did not have. Live journal, I had.
Live journal I had for a while. I didn't use it very often, but I had one. I think I had a Zenga too. Do you
I
remember
did too
Zenga?
because I thought it was going to be the next
The
thing, and
next
it
big
wasn't.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Betamax or VHS.
Yeah, pretty
Which
much.
one is gonna, you know?
And then Facebook came, and then because I didn't go to proper college, as they say, I did not have access to it right away.
I totally forgot that was even a thing back then.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
college only thing.
I feel like it kind of jumped the ship once my grandparents got on Facebook.
I said, you know what's funny about that? I have a status, and when it comes back up, I will have to post it. And I literally said, well, I guess the Cubs will win the World Series now because my grandma's on Facebook.
Hell is officially frozen over. Well, Sean, that does it for my list. You got anything else you want to add here?
I mean, the only other thing that our kids will never have to worry about is feeding or cleaning up after an Tamagotchi.
Oh, that's a good one. My sister had one of those. I never had one.
I had a knockoff like dollar store one.
Yeah, like a Nano Pet or Neo Pet or something.
I think it was even cheaper than that.
Yeah, I remember that was a big deal.
Well, yeah.
Having to clean up the crap that it would leave you, and
it would go off at random times, and
yeah, I dodged that bullet.
I remember my uncle thought that I had a pager for some reason. I was like 8 years old, and he's like, "Why do you have a pager?" He didn't see it; all he did was hear it, and he's like, "Who's got the pager?" Which, there again,
businessmen and drug dealers. Those are business people and drug dealers. Those are the only people that have pagers.
Excuse me, sir. Drug dealing is a business.
That's true. Street pharmacist.
I would say doctors, maybe. Or like that's a good one, real quick. If you want to see some old technology, go back and watch Caddyshack. Dr. Beeper's beeper is like,
oh my God, that's right.
It's like bigger than our cell phones now. And it's like the height. Yeah. And it's probably 4 or 5 like iPhones stacked.
Well, I know
it's huge.
I don't remember now what the doctors had, but I know like when we went in for our kids to be born, the nurses just all had cordless phones. Like,
I've seen that.
I don't even know if they had beepers anymore, but yeah, that's
God. But they're like kitchen cordless phones.
Yeah,
like
they're like
huge.
90s.
Like, why are they
phones?
that big?
Yeah. They're like, you don't need this.
It's like they raided everyone's kitchen in the 90s.
Hey,
that was one. Did you guys have a cordless phone? Like, that was a big deal when we got our cordless phone.
When we got our first cordless phone, that was a huge deal.
Yeah. And then we got a cordless phone with caller ID, and then we figured we didn't look back.
No. But the future was there.
How can it get any better? What do you mean I'm going to have a phone in my car with me at all times?
Yeah. It can't. It's all downhill from there. Which all right, well, you know what that means, Sean.
Whoops, you know what the music means.
I do.
Our time is up.
That went really quick. I don't know about you.
Yeah. But you know, with all good things have to come to an end.
That is true. So if you like the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Check out the website, linktree.com/mmcpodcast, facebook.com/mmcpodcast1, mmcpodcast1@gmail.com if you want to email us, or call the show, leave a voicemail. We won't screen your calls. We'll play it. 1-815-905-CLUB. We'll be back hopefully in the next week or two with more 90s fun. Sean, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you next time, man.
Always. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care, everybody. See you next time.